Hi, this is Dr. Steve Graves from the CSUN Geography Department. That's California State University at Northridge. This is a video tutorial to help students in introductory courses learn how to use ArcGIS Online. So the first thing you probably want to do if you're in my class is to go ahead and click on the Sign In. Presumably you've already used the link from the assignment to open this web page. So go ahead and click Sign In, and it will prompt you for your organization's URL. This is the one we want to click and expand, and then type in CSUN GIS. And you can click remember this URL. Click Continue. Of course, it'll take you to this window here, California State University, Northridge. Click here, go through the login sequence. Expect perhaps a duo push. Here it is. I'm being logged in, and now we want to open it in Map Viewer or Map Viewer Classic. I'm gonna do it the wrong way first here. Open in Map Viewer Classic, and you'll see what happens is we should get an error message here quickly after it opens, indicating that this thing is designed for the newer version of Map Viewer. So go ahead and click Open in Map Viewer. Because that I've signed in, there are a number of analytical tools that it will accept. So I'm going to click off and hide the layers and start from here. Note that there is a map window here, and that there are several different types of maps available. In order to see them, expand, if it's not already, the left toolbar, the black toolbar, and select from the options the Layers button. The cities are turned on, and you can see them. They are a point vector map. The other major kind of vector map is the polygon map, and the states are polygons, and I'm going to turn those off quickly. I'm going to turn on or make visible the North American rail lines layer. We're only going to use this for one moment, just so that you know that the three major vector types are points, lines, and polygons. At the bottom here is a base map, and the base map can be changed by clicking over here, and there will be a list of different kinds of base maps. The one that is selected is a topographic map, which shows information about elevation and rivers, lakes, natural features, along with some information about the human impact on the landscape, streets and cities and whatnot. I'll click back on the layers, and then there is a third polygonal layer that's invisible right now, and that's the California cities polygons. We will return to that, and you can turn that off if you want, or leave it on. Turn back on the major cities and the generalized boundary layer. Note that because the California polygons layer is active, it has a little blue stripe here on the far left side, and because of that, its properties are appearing in the right side toolbar, or information window in this case. And to deactivate that or get rid of that, you can just click on the X or click again on the California cities layer, and that disappears. We're going to look at the U.S. major cities, and if you don't want this properties window, just click it out. It's still the USA cities is active. Okay, so at this point, probably pause the video and answer a couple of questions from your exercise. So in order to use some of the most basic functions of this software, I'm going to have you click on a handful of cities. You can, if you want to, you can turn off the states, and so only the dots. And from your learning management software, it will prompt you to click on a city here or there, and it will ask you to communicate the information that appears in the pop-up window. So I'm going to click on Boise, Idaho, and when I click on Boise, Idaho, it gives me the name of the city plus a good bit of information that's in this particular layer of data. And the thing that your learning management software is going to ask you is what's the total population, and in this case for Boise it's 235,684 people, and that would be the answer if you were prompted for Boise. So take a moment and answer a few questions about city populations so you can demonstrate that you know how to use that bit of the tool. Next, you can turn the cities layer off if you want and turn the U.S. generalized boundaries layer on, the U.S. states boundaries on, and you can do the same thing. Click on a state and it will render some information in the pop-up window that you can use to answer a few questions. So answer a couple of those questions about state population. Next, turn the major cities layer back on and click on the Map Tools button on the right side toolbar, and from the drop-down menu or the pop-out menu, select Measurement. In order to measure, click on a point and drag it to another point. And so what I'm going to do is just measure between Kansas City. So I've clicked on Kansas City, the point that identifies that, and I'm going to drag it over here to Wichita, Kansas. Now I can zoom in much more closely to get right on that dot. The point here is that it's 178 miles between Wichita and St. Louis. But if I want to, I can come over here and change this to meters, kilometers, or some other format. If we were strictly scientific, we would use kilometers. Your learning management software will ask you a few questions. You are asked to measure between two pair of cities for several questions. So go ahead and pause and answer those questions. The next feature of the software that's very useful is something called the attribute table. If you click on the three dots to the right of major cities and open the table attributes, you will see that, or the attributes that are in a table, you will see a list of the cities sorted somewhat, it looks like by this column here, place FIPS, which is sort of a zip code for each city. But we can sort this data top to bottom, bottom to top, by clicking on these up arrows and down arrows for each of the columns of data. So Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the last in the list of place FIPS, and Birmingham, Alabama is first. You will also do this for various of the columns here as I prompt, or you are prompted into your learning management software. So you will answer the question about what city has the least population on the list and the most population on the list, most per square mile, least per square mile. So go ahead and answer those questions. It's a matching style question. So when you're finished with the attribute table or the table, you can just click X and it will disappear. The next thing I want you to do is to right click on the California polygons layer, and you can choose from the drop down menu to zoom to, and then what I want you to do is zoom in closely here on the Los Angeles area. We're going to turn off the state boundary layer, make it invisible. I want you to find the city of Irvine. And the point of all of this is just so that you can recognize that the point layer that identifies city, that's good when you're zoomed out. But when you're zoomed in, a polygon layer of the city boundaries are useful. And what's interesting is that sometimes the point that indicates a city like Irvine doesn't really match up all of that well with the polygonal version of it. And so it's just a quick lesson to get you to recognize that sometimes the point's not dead centered in the middle of the city like Santa Ana, but for Irvine it's almost on the edge. So pause and answer that question. So in the last section, we're going to turn the state layer back on, and we can turn these others off. And what we want to do is click on the right side button labeled Configure Charts. And we want to create a chart. So click Add Chart. And we want to create a histogram. And it's saying a histogram for major U.S. cities. So what I need to do is click on States, add a chart, histogram, and now it's ready to make a histogram for the states. And what we're going to do is just select the population. Note that one state, and we'll zoom out, and you can guess which one it is much larger than the other states. And so on this histogram, which I'm going to shrink down here, notice that California is highlighted. This indicates, because it is far to the right of the average, so you want to see where the average is, click on mean. There's a line showing you there's the average population for the state. It's skewed to the right because it is an outlier that is far to the right of the mean or the average. The median sometimes is helpful for this, but as we see that the median is gives us a more faithful understanding of the average population of states. We're out here at almost 40 million, and the average is somewhere around 4 million. Standard deviation is sort of like you would characterize it as give or take. 68% of all of the states would be within one standard deviation of the mean. So in this area here between basically 0 and the standard deviation is some 7.4 million above the mean. And so what you're asked to do is to take a look at this curve. Turn off mean and standard deviation. Or no, let's leave the mean on, and indicate whether you think this is skewed to the right or positively skewed, or skewed to the left and negatively skewed, based on the size of this tail, or the length of the ramp going downwards, either to the right or the left. So pause the video and give that question a shot. The last task is to change the color ramp. So we've noted that the data is skewed, that California is this outlier, but in many ways this color ramp that we see is not reflective of the skewing in the data. So what we want to do is to change the color ramp of this choropleth map so that it reflects the nature of the data more accurately. So click on the Styles button. And so what we only need to do is this point is to click Style Options. You can change the color ramp if you want to a different format. I could make purple. But what we want to do is change it from quantile and take a look at it at natural breaks, then equal interval, how they are mapping the data. So by clicking natural breaks, you see the darkest states are fewer on the map, and then if you change it to equal interval, which separates the states by equal population rather than the way that it came to you, which is quantiles, where 10 states of each category are, the largest states, there's 10 of those, the smallest states, there's 10 of those, but it lumps California in with all the other states, and perhaps that's not correct. So will answer a couple of questions, and that is the end of this video tutorial.